we peak performers, when we are not working really hard all the time, we feel like imposters, or we feel like, did I really do anything possible this month to do everything I could to make my dream come true? And objectively, obviously, I hit that goal. But subjectively, I was really questioning myself. Do you consider yourself a high achiever? Smart, driven, highly successful? I am so excited to have you. My name is Julia Arndt, and I'm the host of the Stress Podcast. I will help you develop your stress resilience the same way you've developed your workplace superpowers. Learn peak performance tools to thrive at work and in your personal life. Let's get started. Hi, and welcome back to Stressed, your podcast to develop your next workplace superpower. My name is Julia Arndt, and I am so excited that you are here with me today and that we can chat about a very powerful statement. Dreams come true if you work really hard for them. I want to chat with you about this belief today and see if we can potentially rephrase that into something more empowering and into something a lot more healthy. Before we jump into that today, I want to do a really quick plug-in because I want to invite you to join us weekly at Plan Your Week with Julia. These are sessions that I'm facilitating every Monday at 8 a.m. PST for free in order to help you develop a new time management habit. I'm super excited about these sessions, and I'm super excited to chat with you about the challenges that you're currently facing when it comes to time management, when it comes to creating more space for yourself, when it comes to prioritize the things that you have on your to-do list, when it comes to setting boundaries. All of these things are things that we are talking about in these sessions every Monday, and I would really love to see you come by and join us as well. This is a community that I'm building and that I'm super passionate about and dedicated to, because I really truly believe that more of us need to better manage and plan our time and prioritize our time. And I know it can sometimes be really difficult to get started. So join us, stay committed and accountable to building your new time management habit and see what it does for you. If you are curious and if you want to join us, you can find the link to register in the show notes below. And that's all I want to share with you before diving today into the podcast episode. So I would say, let's get started. Hi, and welcome back to the podcast episode, Dreams Come True If You Work Really Hard for Them. I am really excited to chat with you about this statement today because it was something that I have actually had to work throughout this summer. And it was something that a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, a close friend of mine who started her business in 2020, posted on her Instagram story on Saturday. And I saw her post, I saw her story, and she talked about starting her own showroom because she's an interior designer and it was a big dream of hers. And she posted a picture of that showroom and said, "Dreams come true if you work really hard for them." And I challenged her on that. So we started to have a really deep conversation about, is this statement actually true? And is this statement really healthy for us? Does that statement really bring us to where we want to go? And because this was such an important conversation, and because I believe that this is such an important topic in general, I want to chat with you about this today. Because as a high achiever and peak performer, you might think the exact same thing. So I want you to check in with yourself. Maybe you even clicked on this podcast episode because you're like, yeah, absolutely, I 100% agree with this statement. So check in with yourself and ask yourself, is this statement for me true? And how do I act? What do I do every single day? Because subconsciously, non-consciously, this is a true statement for you. There's absolutely no judgment because, as I just mentioned, I think I held this belief for many years, for probably most of my lifetime. And it started in high school when I started to have issues with getting good grades. And so I created a system in order to get good grades. I would come home from school in the afternoon, I would sit down, I would rewrite and copy all of my classes, and then I would study them. And that's how I started to become a very successful student. And so I learned that if I work really hard, my dream, which in that case at that point in time was to get good grades, became true. And so without really realizing, I created this really strong belief in my head. And it was something that shaped me and formed me over the course of my whole life, my whole student career, my whole professional career. And no matter what you are striving for today, no matter what your dream is, no matter if it is the next promotion, a salary increase, starting your business, or developing your business to a certain set point, you might really believe that your dream will only come true if you work extremely hard for that. And there's no judgment at all. I'm going to say that again because I think it's really, really important that you know that I believed that for so many years as well. And I identified with that. And I was really proud of that. And I was really proud that I was a hard worker and that I got to realize all of my dreams because of my work ethic and my attitude towards those kind of things, because of the self-discipline that I had developed over the course of the years. But the sad truth also is that over the course of the last 10, 15 years, I've always struggled with burnout. I've always struggled with really creating space for myself to recharge because I was working so hard, because I was waking up in the morning, taking my phone in my hand, and the first thing that I would do is check my emails from work. And the last thing I would do in the evening was to probably also check my emails from work and answer a couple of last calls and last things, right? And I was really proud of working during the weekends and taking on extra projects to shine. And I just didn't know how to read the signals of my body at that time. And again, I want you to check in with yourself. Is that true for you? Maybe you say it's absolutely true, and I 100% agree with you. And maybe you say this is actually not true for me. And both of these are okay. Because if you have answered that maybe this is not the space that you're currently finding yourself in, then I would be curious to chat with you and see if maybe you feel really fulfilled by chasing your dreams, if you feel really good about chasing your dreams and working super hard for them. Sometimes it doesn't really show in physical symptoms and burnout. Sometimes it shows in our happiness levels and giving up a lot of things for the dreams that we have. And sometimes that's, of course, good, and sometimes that's bad. But in the grand scheme of things, I have fully broke through this limiting belief this summer. And I want to teach you and tell you today that there is another way. And the reason why this has come up for me prominently this summer is because I wanted to up-level my business. I really wanted to do something more. I wanted to get to that next set point in my business. I wanted to make more revenue, and of course, with more revenue, create more time freedom for myself as well. But I always asked myself, well, how is this really going to be possible, right? We oftentimes hear about people that build a team around them. And of course, that's something that is very inspirational and aspirational for me, and something that I want to get to in 2024. And at the same time, it is hard for me to delegate work. I have tried over the past 5 years. I have had multiple VAs and multiple PAs, so personal assistants and virtual assistants. But it is really hard for me to even give up that kind of control, because I like to do things on my own. I am somewhat a perfectionist. And sometimes it kind of is frustrating when you spend just as much time doing something by yourself by explaining to someone else what they have to do, to just use that time to explain it to someone. And then they still might not do it as well as you would have done it yourself, right? So upscaling and becoming larger is hard from an entrepreneurial standpoint, and you might be able to leverage that to your corporate life as well, right? I know I have talked to so many clients and so many people that are moving from an individual contributor role into a managerial role, and they still try to do it all themselves, and they have a really hard time to delegate, and they would really like to still understand all of the things that their reportees are doing as well. Trust me, you are not alone if this resonates with you, and you might smile about this right now. You are not alone, and that's okay. It's totally a human thing, and that's why we are talking about this today. So I wanted to up-level this summer, and you might have already listened to my other podcast where I talk about the 5 reasons why you should invest in yourself. If you haven't checked out that podcast episode yet, I highly encourage you to do so, because I'm talking a little bit more about the investment that I made in myself this year and who is starting to challenge me on all of these old beliefs. But because I really want to set a new point for my business this year and, of course, the following years, and at the same time, I want to have more time freedom, I really had to challenge the belief my dream will only come true if I work really hard for it. And I look back at August of 2023 because I actually had a lot of free time. I was prioritizing things very differently than I had ever before, because I was really intentional and clear around where I want to make revenue. And at the same time, it was the summer. I had some friends coming into town to visit, and I was going away as well for a weekend, for a longer extended weekend, to go to a concert. And there were just things in my personal life that took priority. And I ended up not working super hard in the month of August, at least in my definition, right? Because I have a super high benchmark and standard when it comes to working really hard. And at the same time, I was really successful. I accomplished exactly what I wanted to accomplish that month. And it brought me into this cycle of almost not feeling good enough about myself. And you might laugh now and you might think, what? Really, Julia? This is kind of silly. But maybe, just maybe, you can also relate to my experience. Because we peak performers, when we are not working really hard all the time, because this is just how our brain is wired and how we know we can be successful, we feel like imposters, or we feel like, did I really do anything possible this month to do everything I could to make my dream come true? And objectively, obviously, I hit that goal. But subjectively, I was really questioning myself. And so this belief came up: dreams come true if you work really hard for them. And I felt like I had kind of failed myself because I hadn't really worked super hard. And so I really had to sit with this statement, and I realized that especially towards the end of that month of August, I started to work out extremely hard and to find little things again at work that I could do in order to sit an hour or two longer at my desk. Because intrinsically, I felt like I maybe did not do enough to really deserve to be successful, even though I didn't work as hard. And that was a really big eye-opener. I actually got sick at the beginning of September because I think I totally pushed myself unconsciously, non-consciously. I had no idea that that was kind of the belief that I was operating towards, but that is what beliefs do. Mindset is everything. I talk about this all the time. I actually recorded a beautiful podcast episode about mindset is everything this year as well. If you haven't checked out that one, well, this one is a really good one because I have a couple of you, my community, join that podcast episode, and we did some live coaching on that call in order to really chat about exactly that, right? About mindset. And I realized mindset is really everything. If I believe that only if I work hard, my dreams come true, this is totally going to happen. If I believe that I can work smart and not hard, and I know that sounds kind of cheesy, right? Because we talk about that all the time and we hear that all the time, work smarter, not harder, but it is really true. And that is really the difference, right? So when we're thinking about mindset and limiting beliefs, this was totally a limiting belief for me. And it was a limiting belief that held me small and that kept me in a cycle of burnout. Because, I mean, it's obvious, right? If you only if you only believe that only hard work pays off, well, you will always work hard, right? Because that's what you're operating out of. That's what your belief is. And so I had to tell myself, okay, until now, for me, this statement was true. And now I decide to act differently. And I decide to believe something else, to create a new mindset around that. And to believe that even if I only work 10 or 20 hours a week, will I be super, super successful. And that is the thing that I have been experimenting with over the last 5 years since I started this business. And that is the new approach that I'm going to take from now on. Now I'm looking at all the things that I need during the month to thrive. I look at all of the appointments that I want to schedule, no matter if it is massages and facials and manis and pedis, or just time for myself, time with my friends, time with my partner, and time that I need in order to invest in the relationships that I have that are important for me. And then here are the things that I want to do for my business and in my business. And so this is kind of the prioritization that I have adopted now. And it is, of course, requiring to be super intentional about my priorities and super intentional about my time. And I'm still going through this exercise because it's an exercise that I honestly need to do on a very regular basis because I am a rainbow personality. So I have a lot of different interests and I like to work. Yes, I do like to work, and I do highly identify as a person that is very ambitious and a hard worker. And at the same time, I don't want to work like that anymore because I have learned that actually over the course of the last 5 years, and that's the thought that I actually wanted to finish earlier, I have learned that the more time I take for myself, the more I focus on my recharge times and my nervous system regulation, the more I actually get done. Before recording this podcast today, I actually recorded 3 videos. And when I came home from my recording office, I was thinking to myself, okay, and now I'm going to sit down and record 2 podcast episodes as well. And then I need to do 5 other things as well. But my new me knows that that is not the best strategy. And my new me also knows that actually my brain was already pretty brain dead after recording 3 videos. So what I did instead was I went to the bakery, I got some lunch, and I just sat down for an hour and ate my lunch in peace and recharged and relaxed. And now I'm sitting here and I can actually record this podcast episode. I'm sorry for the noise. If you hear it in the background, Kobe is snoring. He's just sitting there and sleeping. So in case you heard that, I'm sorry about that. It's my little snoozing little puppy laying in the corner of my office. And so, yeah, so I basically learned that by taking these intentional breaks and by creating that space for myself to be who I want to be, I am so much more successful and so much more important, so much more successful and accomplished than I ever was before, because I am not getting to these dreams by being absolutely, completely burnt out and tired and overwhelmed and all the things. But I get there with peace and with happiness and with enjoying the process along the way. And so I want to really encourage you to test that out. And if you have been following this podcast for the last 5 years, you know that this is the message I have been trying to bring across to you for the last 5 years. You can still work hard, but in the sense of not working hard, of working 12, 14, 16, 18, 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, but working hard in the sense of being super intentional about where and what you're doing, for how long you're doing it, and celebrating those milestones. That is what I want to share with you today. I really believe that this statement is so old and we really need to challenge it. So if you hear someone say, my dreams can only come true if I work really hard for them, challenge them. Don't just challenge yourself, challenge others as well. Because in our society, that is what we have created. And a lot of the people that I work with, and probably some of you, do totally connect with that belief as well. And I can tell you that with my experience that I've had this summer, everything has changed. And this powerful belief can be even more powerful by telling yourself, dreams come true if I create space for myself on a regular basis. And I am really smart about where I put my time and energy. And that's all I want to leave you with today. So thank you so much for listening to today's podcast episode. If you enjoyed it, I would love if you would leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. And I would love to chat with you about this topic. So come and stop by either on my Instagram account at JuliaArnCoaching and comment underneath this week's podcast episode, or say hi on the YouTube channel and leave me a comment, leave me feedback, leave me insights, leave me ideas of what you want me to talk about in the future. I am so grateful for you, and I wish you all the best with your new, more empowering belief that your dream can come true if you create intentional space for yourself and manage your time really wisely.